Captain Yuna had seen many strange things in her 20 years of space exploration. She had walked on frozen moons and watched twin suns rise over purple oceans. But nothing had prepared her for what floated before her now. The debris field stretched for thousands of kilometers in every direction. Broken ships, twisted metal, and shattered hulls drifted in the endless darkness. Her scanner counted over 10,000 wrecks. This was not a battle. This was a massacre. "What is this place?" whispered Hana, her second in command. Yuna checked the star charts. This region was marked as forbidden space. No one came here. No one even talked about it. The Galactic Coalition had declared this zone off-limits 3,000 years ago, and no explanation was ever given. "I am detecting something unusual," said the ship's computer. "One vessel in the debris field shows no damage. It appears to be intact." Yuna felt her scales tighten against her skin. The Cathri were a curious species. It was both their greatest strength and their most dangerous weakness. She knew she should report this finding and wait for orders. She knew the smart thing was to leave, but the intact ship called to her like a song in the darkness. "Take us closer," she ordered. The vessel was beautiful in a terrifying way. It was black as the void itself, shaped like a blade cutting through space. Strange symbols covered its hull, letters in a language that had not been spoken for 3,000 years. Yuna recognized them from old museum displays and forbiddens. Historical text. This was a human ship. Humanity. The word itself was almost a legend now. They had appeared from a small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy. They had spread across the stars faster than any species before them. And then, in a single terrible war, they had vanished completely. The Veth Dominion claimed to have destroyed them all. The humans were gone, their worlds burned, their people erased from existence. Yet here was one of their ships, untouched by time or battle, waiting in the graveyard of their civilization. "I am going aboard," Yuna said. Hana grabbed their arm. "Captain, this is insane. We do not know what is in there. It could be a trap. It could be contaminated. The humans were dangerous. Everyone knows this." "Everyone knows what the Veth told them," Yuna replied. "I want to know the truth." She crossed from her ship to the human vessel through a connection tube. The airlock opened easily, as if it had been waiting for her. Inside, the lights flickered on automatically, revealing corridors that were clean and perfectly preserved. There was no dust, no decay. The ship had been sleeping, not dying. Yuna walked through the silent hallways, her heart beating fast. She passed rooms filled with strange equipment, screens showing data in a human language, and walls covered with pictures. She stopped at one image and stared. It showed a group of humans smiling together, their arms around each other. They looked so ordinary, so normal. They had soft skin in different shades of brown and pink, hair in colors from black to yellow, eyes that sparkled with life. They did not look like monsters. They looked like people. The command center was at the heart of the ship. Yuna entered slowly, her weapon raised. The room was circular, with a large chair at the center facing a massive window that looked out at the stars. And in the chair sat a figure. At first, she thought it was a corpse. But as she approached, she saw that the figure was too perfect, too still. It was not organic. It was an android, a machine built to look human. When her foot touched the platform, the android's eyes opened. Yuna jumped back, her weapon pointed at its head. The android did not move. It simply looked at her with eyes that seemed impossibly sad. "Hello," it said in a voice that was soft and gentle. "My name is Tay. I am the keeper of this vessel. What is this place?" Yuna demanded. "What happened here?" Tay was silent for a long moment. Then he stood slowly and walked to the window. Outside, the debris field stretched into infinity, the bones of a dead fleet. "This is where humanity made its last stand," he said. Or at least, that is what we wanted the galaxy to believe. Before Yuna could ask what he meant, her communicator screamed with an emergency signal. Hannah's voice came through, filled with fear. "Captain, we have a problem. A Veth patrol has just entered the system. They have detected us. They are coming." Yuna felt cold terror wash over her. The Veth Dominion was the most powerful military force in the galaxy. They had conquered dozens of species. They had destroyed humanity itself. And now they were coming for her. But when she looked at Tay, she saw something strange. The android was not afraid. He was watching the approaching Veth ships on the sensors with an expression she could not read. "Interesting," Tay said quietly. "They are not attacking." Yuna looked at the display. He was right. The Veth patrol, 5 heavily armed warships, had stopped at the edge of the debris field. They were not advancing. They were not even charging weapons. They were running away. The 5 ships turned and fled at maximum speed, as if they had seen a ghost. And perhaps they had. Perhaps they had seen the symbol on the hull of this ancient ship and remembered what it meant. Tay turned to Yuna with those sad, ancient eyes. "I need you to take me to your leaders," he said. "There is much they do not know about humanity. And if the Veth are still afraid after 3,000 years, then perhaps the time has come to wake the others." "What others?" Yuna asked. Tay looked back at the stars, at the region of space marked forbidden on every map in the galaxy. "The fleet," he said simply. "All 7,000 of them. Sleeping in the darkness. Waiting for the day they are needed again." Yuna felt the universe shift beneath her feet. Everything she had been taught, everything she believed, was about to change. And somewhere in the void, 7,000 human warships dreamed of waking up. Captain Kang Yuna stood on the bridge of the Resolve as it traveled through the strange space between stars. She was 42 years old, with sharp eyes and black hair tied back in a tight bun. She had spent 20 years preparing for this moment, and she felt no fear. Only purpose. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of machines. 12 officers sat at their stations, watching screens filled with data that no human had seen before. Stars stretched into lines of light outside the main window. They were moving faster than light itself, bending the rules of the universe. "Captain," a voice said behind her. "Do you have a moment?" Yuna turned to see Dr. Cho Jiho floating through the door. The ship had gravity in most areas, but Jiho spent so much time in the zero-gravity labs that he often forgot to walk. He was 65 years old, with wild gray hair and glasses that were always slightly crooked. He had spent his entire adult life working on the Resolve. "Of course, Doctor," Yuna said. "What is it?" Jiho pulled himself to a standing position and grabbed a handrail. "I thought you should know the full history. Before we arrive. You know pieces of it, but not everything." Yuna nodded. She had always wondered about the gaps in her knowledge. The things that were classified even from her. Jiho took a deep breath. In 2089, a fishing boat in the Pacific Ocean saw something fall from the sky. It was not a meteor. It was a ship. An alien ship, badly damaged, sinking fast. He paused. The crew of that fishing boat were the first humans to see proof of alien life. They were also the last to speak of it freely. Every government in the world agreed to keep it secret. "I know this part," Yuna said. "Yes, but you do not know what we found inside." Jiho's eyes grew distant with memory. The aliens were dead. Had been dead for thousands of years. Their ship was ancient, a relic from a civilization that no longer existed. But their technology still worked. And in their computers, we found something incredible. He pulled a small device from his pocket. A hologram appeared showing technical drawings that Yuna could not understand. The aliens who built that ship had discovered something dangerous. A way to control gravity itself. To create tiny black holes. To fold space like paper. Jiho shook his head. They were afraid of it. They locked the plans away and never built it. They thought it was too powerful. Too destructive. But we built it, Yuna said quietly. We built it. Jiho put the device away. It took us 60 years. Thousands of scientists from every nation working in secret. We made mistakes. We had accidents. Good people died. His voice grew heavy. But we finished it. The Void Lance. A weapon that can destroy anything. The door opened again, and 2 more officers entered. Lieutenant Commander Beak Sora was tall and athletic, with a calm face that hid a brilliant tactical mind. She was the ship's weapons officer, the one who would fire the Void Lance when the time came. Behind her walked Chief Engineer Moon Taiwan, a large man with gentle eyes and hands that could fix anything. Captain, Sora said, we are 6 hours from the Valoran home system. I thought we should review the plan. Yuna nodded and led them to the tactical table at the center of the bridge. A hologram appeared showing the Valoran system. 12 planets orbited a bright blue star. The 4th planet, Valorith Prime, glowed with city lights visible from space. Intelligence says they have between 300 and 500 warships stationed at the homeworld, Sora explained. Their flagship is the Throne of Light. It is twice the size of our ship and carries enough firepower to destroy a moon. Taiwan crossed his arms. Their ships use plasma weapons and kinetic missiles. Standard technology. Our shields can handle them. And their shields? Yuna asked. Energy barriers, Jiho answered. Strong against plasma and missiles. They have never faced anything like the Void Lance. Their shields will not even slow it down. Yuna studied the hologram. 400 warships against one. Any sane person would call it suicide. But she had seen what the Resolve could do in testing. She had watched the Void Lance erase a small asteroid from existence in less than a second. The goal is not to destroy them, she reminded her officers. The goal is to make them understand. We show strength, but also control. We hurt them just enough to make them listen. Sora nodded. 3 targets. The flagship, the orbital defense station, and a shot into the palace itself. Empty throne room. No deaths if we can avoid it. And if they do not stop after that? Taiwan asked. Yuna's expression hardened. Then we show them what happens when they push us. But I do not think it will come to that. The Valorans have ruled through fear for 10,000 years. They have never met anyone who could make them afraid. When they feel real fear for the first time, they will talk. The ship shuddered slightly as it adjusted course. Outside the window, the stretched stars began to slow. Approaching normal space, the navigation officer announced. Arrival in Valoran system in 5 hours and 42 minutes. Yuna looked at her crew. 200 people had volunteered for this mission. 200 people who knew they might not come home. They had trained for years. They had left families behind. They had chosen to stand between Earth and the darkness. Get some rest, she told her officers. Eat something. When we arrive, everything changes. For us, for Earth, for the entire galaxy. As they left the bridge, Yuna stayed behind. She walked to the main window and looked out at the passing stars. Somewhere ahead, the Valorans were waiting. They were laughing at Earth, calling humans insects. Dirt-CRAWLERS. They had no idea what was coming. Yuna touched the glass gently. My grandmother used to tell me stories, she whispered to the stars. She said that the tiger does not roar to show its strength. It stays silent until it strikes. She smiled coldly. You have poked a tiger, Emperor Calvith. Now you will learn why that was a mistake. She turned and walked to her quarters to prepare. In a few hours, humanity would announce itself to the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same. The Resolve dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Valoran system. For a brief moment, everything was silent. Then the alarms started. Contact. The sensor officer shouted. Multiple contacts. Hundreds of them. Captain Yuna stood at the center of the bridge, her hands clasped behind her back. She watched the main screen as red dots appeared one after another. 10, 50, 100, 200. The number kept climbing. 412 Valoran warships. Lieutenant Commander Sora reported from her station. They are moving to intercept. Formation suggests they want to surround us. Let them, Yuna said calmly. Hold position. Do not charge weapons yet. The crew exchanged nervous glances but followed orders. The Resolve sat still in space as the massive Valoran fleet approached from all directions. Each enemy ship was beautiful in its own way, with curved hulls that glowed with golden light. They looked like works of art designed to kill. At the center of the fleet came the largest ship Yuna had ever seen. The Throne of Light was 3 kilometers long, covered in weapons and shining with enough power to light a small city. It moved with the confidence of something that had never known defeat. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. Put it on screen. The face of Grand Admiral Thyros appeared. He was older than the Emperor, with deep lines on his blue face and scars across 2 of his 4 eyes. He wore armor decorated with medals and symbols of conquered worlds. Behind him, his bridge crew watched with expressions of amusement. One ship, Thyros said. His voice dripped with contempt. The humans sent 1 ship. He looked off screen and laughed. His crew laughed with him. I have destroyed fleets of hundreds. I have burned worlds that dared to resist us. And you bring me 1 ship? Yuna did not react. She let him laugh. Perhaps you did not understand the Emperor's message, Thyros continued. Perhaps your primitive brains could not process it. So let me make it simple for you. He leaned forward, his 4 eyes cold. Surrender now. Bow before the Dominion. Beg for mercy. And I might let some of you live as slaves. The bridge was silent. Every officer on the Resolve watched their captain. Yuna stood perfectly still for a long moment. Then she spoke. This is Captain Kang Yuna of the United Earthship Resolve. Her voice was steady and clear. We received your Emperor's message. We understood it perfectly. We are here to give our response. Thyros raised what might have been an eyebrow. And what response is that? Suicide? No. Yuna took 1 step forward. We are here to demonstrate. You believe humanity is weak. You believe we are insects to be crushed. You are wrong. She paused. You have 30 seconds to withdraw your fleet from weapons range. This is your only warning. For a moment, Thyros stared at her in disbelief. Then he burst out laughing. It was a deep, ugly sound that filled the bridge. His crew joined in. Somewhere in the background, Yuna could hear other ships broadcasting the same laughter. 30 seconds? Thyros wiped tears from his eyes. You threaten me? With 1 ship? Against 400? He shook his head. Human, you are either brave or stupid. Perhaps both. But it does not matter. His expression turned cold. All ships, charge weapons. Destroy them. The screen flickered back to the tactical display. All around the Resolve, 400 ships powered up their weapons. Plasma cannons glowed hot. Missile bays opened. Energy shields hummed to full strength. 20 seconds, Yuna said quietly. Sora looked up from her station. Captain, they are targeting us. All of them. Hold position. Do not fire until I give the order. Chief Engineer Taiwan's voice came through the intercom. "Captain, the Void Lance is charged and ready. Singularity core is stable. 10 seconds." The Valoran ships formed a perfect sphere around the Resolve. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. 400 weapons locked onto one small human ship. 5 seconds. On the throne of light, Grand Admiral Thyros smiled. "Fire on my command. 3, 2, 1. Now," Una said. What happened next would be talked about across the galaxy for 1,000 years. The Resolve did not move. It did not try to dodge or run. Instead, a section of its hull opened, revealing a lens of pure darkness. It was like looking into a hole in reality itself. "First target," Sora announced. "Flagship." A beam of absolute nothing shot from the Resolve. It crossed the distance to the Throne of Light in less than a heartbeat. It passed through the ship's shields as if they did not exist. And then the flagship simply stopped being a ship. The beam created a point of infinite gravity at the center of the Throne of Light. The massive vessel collapsed inward, folding and crushing and compressing. In 1 second, 3 kilometers of warship became a sphere the size of a marble. Then even that disappeared, pulled into a dimension that had no name. Grand Admiral Thyros and his entire crew were gone. They did not even have time to scream. The Valoran fleet froze. Every ship, every weapon, every crew member. They had just watched their greatest warship vanish like it was never there. "Second target," Sora said. "Orbital station." The Void Lance fired again. The defensive station that orbited Valorith Prime, a fortress that had taken 200 years to build, suffered the same fate. 12 kilometers of metal and weapons compressed into nothing. Third target. Imperial Palace. Empty throne room only. This time, something different happened. The beam did not travel through normal space. It tore a hole in reality, a shortcut that opened directly inside the palace on the planet below. The throne where Emperor Kalvith had sat during his message was erased. The floor, the ceiling, the ancient walls around it, all gone. But no one was hurt. The Emperor was in a bunker deep underground. His servants had been evacuated hours ago. It was a message. "We could have killed you. We chose not to." The Resolve sat in the middle of 400 enemy ships. None of them moved. None of them fired. They were paralyzed by something they had not felt in 10,000 years. Fear. Captain Una opened a channel to the entire fleet. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "We could have sent 100 ships. We sent one. We could have destroyed your planet. We destroyed a chair." She paused. "You wanted our surrender. Here is our answer. We do not surrender. We do not bow. And if you ever threaten Earth again, we will not show mercy a second time." The channel stayed open. No one responded. No one knew what to say. Finally, a shaking voice came through. A junior officer on one of the remaining ships. "What? What are you?" Una allowed herself a small smile. "We are human. Remember that." The silence lasted for exactly 93 seconds. 93 seconds where 400 warships sat frozen in space, their crews trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Then the communications channel exploded with noise. Panic. Confusion. Terror. The Valoran fleet had never experienced anything like this. Ships that had conquered worlds were now filled with officers screaming at each other, demanding answers that no one had. On the Resolve, Captain Una watched the chaos with quiet satisfaction. "Sora, status report." Lieutenant Commander Sora checked her screens. "Enemy weapons are still charged but not firing. Several ships are attempting to retreat. Others are just sitting there." She paused. "I am detecting high-frequency transmissions between the fleet and the planet. They are reporting to their government. Let them, Una said. The more witnesses, the better. Deep beneath the surface of Valarth Prime, Emperor Calveth the Radiant sat in his emergency bunker. His hands were shaking. His 4 eyes stared at the screen in front of him, watching the replay of what had happened to his flagship, to his orbital station, to his throne room. Impossible, he whispered. This is impossible. His advisors stood around him, but none of them spoke. What could they say? They had just watched their most powerful weapons become worthless. They had watched a single alien ship do something that defied everything they knew about war. Your Radiance, one advisor finally said. The human ship is requesting communication. Calveth closed his eyes. For 10,000 years, the Valoran Dominion had ruled through strength. They had crushed every enemy. They had never negotiated from weakness. They did not know how, but they were learning. Put them through, the Emperor said. Captain Una's face appeared on the screen. She looked calm, confident, not like someone surrounded by 400 enemy ships. She looked like someone who had already won. Emperor Calveth, she said, I hope you received our message clearly. The Emperor's jaw tightened. You killed Grand Admiral Thyrus. You destroyed our greatest ship, our station. Yes, Una replied simply. And we could have done much more. We chose not to. She tilted her head slightly. You called us insects. You called us dirt crawlers. You demanded our surrender. Her voice hardened. Look at your fleet, Emperor. Look at what one of our ships did in 4 seconds. Then ask yourself if you still think we are insects. Calveth had no answer. For the first time in his long life, he had nothing to say. We did not come here to conquer you, Una continued. We did not come to destroy your empire. We came to make a point. Earth is not your prey. Earth is not your slave. Earth is your equal. She leaned forward. You can accept that and live in peace with us. Or you can reject it and learn what happens when all of our ships come. The choice is yours. The Emperor looked at his advisors. They looked back at him with fear in their eyes. The mighty Valoran Dominion, masters of 12 star systems, had just been humbled by a species they had called primitive. What do you want? Calveth asked. The words tasted like ash in his mouth. We want to talk, Una said. Send a delegation to our ship. No weapons, no tricks, just conversation. She paused. You have 1 hour to decide. The screen went dark. On the resolve, Chief Engineer Taiwan approached the captain. That was well done, he said quietly. But what if they refuse? What if they attack anyway? Una shook her head. They will not. Look at them. She pointed at the tactical display. The Valoran ships were drifting aimlessly. Some had powered down their weapons entirely. Others were backing away slowly, putting distance between themselves and the resolve. They have never felt fear before. It has broken something in them. They need time to understand what happened. And when they understand, they will talk. She was right. 43 minutes later, a small shuttle launched from one of the Valoran cruisers. It carried 3 diplomats and 2 military officers. They came unarmed as requested. Their hands shook as they boarded the human ship. The negotiations happened in the Resolve's conference room. It was a simple space with a metal table and chairs. Nothing fancy, nothing designed to impress. The Valorans sat on one side, the humans on the other. The senior Valoran diplomat was named Thalera. She was old, with pale blue skin that had faded to almost white. She had spent her life negotiating treaties with conquered species. She had never negotiated with an equal. You must understand, she said carefully. The Dominion has ruled this region of space for a very long time. We have traditions, protocols. We cannot simply change everything because of one incident. Una nodded. We understand. We are not asking you to change everything. We are asking you to recognize that Earth is not a threat and not a target. We want peace, real peace, not the peace of the conquered. And if we refuse? One of the military officers asked. He was younger, still angry despite his fear. Dr. Cho Gi-ho, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Then more ships will come, not 1, not 10. Enough to end this conversation permanently. He adjusted his glasses. But I do not think anyone wants that. Your people would die. Our people would have to live with killing them. Everyone loses. The room fell silent. The Valorans looked at each other. Something passed between them. An understanding, an acceptance. We will need to consult with the Emperor, Thalira said finally. But I believe an agreement is possible. Yuna allowed herself a small smile. That is all we ask. A chance to find a better way. The negotiations continued for 6 more hours. Details were discussed. Boundaries were drawn. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Valaran Dominion agreed to treat another species as an equal partner rather than a subject. When the Valaran delegation returned to their ship, Thalira paused at the airlock. She turned to look at Captain Yuna one last time. I have a question, she said. Why did you show mercy? You could have destroyed our entire fleet. You could have killed the Emperor. Why did you hold back? Yuna thought for a moment before answering. Because strength is not just about destroying your enemies. It is about knowing when not to. We wanted you to respect us, not hate us. Fear fades. Hatred does not. She met Thalira's 4 eyes directly. We hope that someday we can be more than just equals. We can be friends. Thalira blinked in surprise. In all her years of diplomacy, no one had ever said anything like that to her. She nodded slowly. Perhaps, she said. Perhaps you are right. She stepped through the airlock, and the shuttle departed. On the bridge of the Resolve, the crew watched it go. They had done it. 1 ship, 1 crew. They had changed the entire galaxy. But Yuna knew this was only the beginning. Word would spread. Other civilizations would hear what happened here. Some would want to be friends. Others would see humanity as a new threat. The galaxy was watching now. And Earth had just announced that it was ready to be watched. 3 months had passed since the Resolve returned to Earth. 3 months that changed everything. The Treaty of Velareth was signed on a space station between the 2 civilizations. It was not a surrender. The Valarans were too proud for that. Instead, it was called a Mutual Recognition Agreement. Both sides agreed to respect each other's territory. Both sides agreed to open diplomatic channels. Both sides agreed that war would benefit no one. Emperor Kalveth signed the treaty himself. He did not smile. He did not make a speech. He simply wrote his name and left. The humiliation would stay with him forever. But he was wise enough to know that pride was less important than survival. On Earth, the celebrations lasted for weeks. People danced in the streets. They painted murals of the Resolve on buildings. Captain Kang Yuna became the most famous person on the planet. Her face appeared on magazines, news programs, and even children's toys. But Yuna did not celebrate. She had too much work to do. The new Earth Space Command headquarters sat on the coast of Bizen, South Korea. It was a massive building made of glass and steel that looked out over the ocean. Inside, thousands of people worked day and night to prepare humanity for its new role in the galaxy. Yuna stood in her office on the top floor. She was no longer a captain. The United Nations had promoted her to Commodore and put her in charge of the new diplomatic corps. Her job was to make sure that what happened with the Valorans never happened again. A knock came at the door. "Come in," she said. Fleet Admiral Park Do-hyun entered. He looked older than he had 3 months ago. The stress of the mission had taken its toll. But his eyes still held the same calm strength that had guided humanity through its greatest challenge. "The latest reports," he said, placing a datapad on her desk. 12 civilizations have sent requests for diplomatic contact. Some want trade agreements. Others want military alliances. Yuna picked up the pad and scrolled through the names. Some she recognized from the intelligence files. The Kolvani Federation, the Sylph Collective, the Arcan Assembly. Others were completely new. And how many of these are genuine? She asked. Duhayan sat down heavily in a chair. Hard to say. Some are clearly afraid of us. They want to be friends before we decide to be enemies. Others are curious. A few might be looking for weaknesses. He paused. The galaxy knows about us now. Everyone is watching to see what we do next. Yuna nodded slowly. This was what she had expected. The Valorans had spent 10,000 years making enemies. Now those enemies saw a chance to shift the balance of power. Some wanted humanity as an ally. Others might see them as a tool to be used and discarded. We cannot trust everyone, she said. But we cannot hide either. We need to engage with the galaxy. Carefully. Slowly. One step at a time. The door opened again, and Dr. Cho Jiho walked in. He was carrying a bag of tools and wearing his usual distracted expression. Ah, Commodore, Admiral, good. I was hoping to find you both. What is it, Doctor? Do-hyun asked. Jiho set down his bag and pulled out a small device. A hologram appeared showing a ship design. It was similar to the Resolve, but larger. Much larger. The second Horizon-class ship is nearly complete, Jiho explained. The U-East Defiance. And the third, the U-East Persistence, will be ready within a year. He smiled proudly. We are no longer a one-ship civilization. Yuna studied the design. 3 ships were better than 1. But the galaxy had thousands of civilizations, and many of them had fleets of hundreds. Earth was still vulnerable. What about the other project? She asked quietly. Jiho's smile faded. He glanced at the door to make sure it was closed, then lowered his voice. Still classified at the highest level. Only 12 people in the entire world know about it. He paused. But yes, progress continues. The Resolve's Voidlance was based on plans the aliens were too afraid to complete. What we are building now is based on plans they were too afraid to even imagine. Do-hyun leaned forward. Is it dangerous? Everything powerful is dangerous, Jiho replied. But if we ever face an enemy that will not negotiate, an enemy that wants nothing but our destruction, we will have an answer. He put the device away. Let us hope we never need to use it. The room fell silent. All 3 of them understood what Jiho meant. The Voidlance had been enough to humble the Valorans. But there were things in the galaxy far worse than the Valorans. Ancient civilizations. Machine intelligences. Horrors that had no name. If any of them decided that humanity was a threat, 3 ships might not be enough. But that was a problem for another day. A message appeared on Yuna's screen. She read it and smiled. The first Valoran ambassador has arrived on Earth. She wants to meet with me personally. Do-hyun raised an eyebrow. Let me guess. Thalira? The same. Yuna stood and straightened her uniform. She requested a posting here specifically. Said she wanted to understand humanity better. She walked toward the door. Perhaps she will. Perhaps we can learn from each other. She paused at the doorway and looked back at the 2 men who had helped save Earth. When I was a child, she said, my grandfather told me that the sea is full of creatures. Some are beautiful. Some are dangerous. And some are both. She smiled. The galaxy is the same. We have taken our first steps into a very big ocean. We must swim carefully, but we must swim forward. She left to meet the ambassador. Admiral Do-hyun watched her go, then turned to Jiho. Do you think we did the right thing? Showing ourselves to the galaxy? Jiho thought for a long moment. We did not have a choice. The Valorans found us. If not them, someone else would have. At least this way, we were able to introduce ourselves on our own terms. He looked out the window at the endless ocean. The galaxy knows about humanity now. They know we are small but not weak. They know we can be reasoned with but not bullied. That is a good foundation. Far above them, beyond the clouds, beyond the atmosphere, the Resolve floated in orbit. Its work was not done. It would never be done. There would always be new threats, new challenges, new enemies who thought humanity was easy prey. But there would also be new friends, new discoveries, new possibilities that no human had ever imagined. The crew of the Resolve looked down at their home world. Blue oceans, green lands, white clouds, a small planet in a vast galaxy. But it was their planet, and they had proven that they would protect it no matter the cost. In bars and trading posts across 100 star systems, a new saying began to spread. Merchants whispered it to each other. Soldiers shared it over drinks. Even the Valorans, in their quiet moments, admitted its truth. Never mock the humans. They only need one ship to end you. And they have more. Captain Kang Yuna, now Commodore Kang, stood in front of the window in her office as the sun set over Bizen. The sky turned orange and pink and purple. Stars began to appear, one by one, until the sky was full of them. She thought about her crew, about the people who had trusted her with their lives, about the 200 souls who had flown into the unknown and changed history. She thought about the future, the challenges ahead, the enemies still out there, the friends not yet made, and she thought about Earth, her home, the small blue world that had surprised the entire galaxy. "We're just getting started," she said softly to the stars. "Watch us." The stars watched. The galaxy waited. And humanity, for the first time in its history, was ready to meet whatever came next.